everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Your Manchester with me, Ms. Belinda Scandal.
And me, Mr. Mark Llewellyn.
We've got a busy show lined up for you today, haven't we, Flower?
Oh, we certainly have. We're talking Keep Fit with Irene Estry. She's 82, you know, and proven that keeping fit mentally and physically is as easy as riding a bike. Now, if you can't find a bike, I have a spare one. So next to me.
Nice. Now, as you can see, myself and Mark are regular gym goers, and we're all about keeping fit, aren't we?
Oh, we certainly are. Belinda likes to reward herself with a hefty gym session, often with a KFC in each hand.
I do love a bit of chicken.
We're joined by Myra Dubois in studio today. She'll be here all day, would you believe?
Now, Myra has a huge couple of months coming up as she goes live at the Cockatoo Club and at Manchester's Comedy Club before becoming vindictive, vain and wicked as the evil stepmother in Manchester Opera House's Panto Cinderella.
Oh, yes, she does. Also today, we're talking to artist Jez Dolan as we look back over the 21 years since the abolition of Section 28.
And I've taken a very special trip back in time to talk about a Christmas carol at Laura this year, which is Hope Mill's Christmas offering.
Yes.
We'll be talking to Claire Moore about her role as Scrooge.
Scrooge, goodness me. This is how your show is looking.
Now we're joined by Myra Dubois, who's joining us here for the entire show.
Myra has a reputation as an acid-tongued stand-up comedian from Rotherham. Welcome, Myra.
Thank you very much. I love all of the words you just said, and Rotherham, there was the one you put the intonation on. From Rotherham.
Where is Rotherham?
Wow.
Where's Rotherham? Well, I mean, geographically or mentally, because it's also a state of mind. Rotherham is not far from Manchester.
Right.
Well, it's an hour and a half drive, or an hour by train. It's in Yorkshire. It's a picturesque former market town.
Okay. Now, where did Myra come from? Let's cut to the chase here. Where does Myra originate? Where does the idea, where does the concept, who is she?
Myra, from Rotherham, I just said, yeah. Rotherham, no, well, it's true. Do you know, I talk about being from Rotherham a lot, and people often wonder why, but I think we're all products of our upbringing, aren't we?
Yes.
And even if you migrate somewhere for whatever reason, you always have a little, if you cut you in half, that stick of rock will still say what's on your birth certificate.
It's
well,
in you.
In terms of, that's right, it's in you. So, I mean, where are you from?
Wigan.
Well, maybe you might try and get rid of that. Maybe Wigan doesn't go with you all the time. I've not been to Wigan yet, although George Orwell wrote about it, so it can't be all bad, can it?
It's got a pier.
It's got a pier, hasn't it? But no coastline, is that right?
No, that's right.
It's got what?
A pier, but no coastline.
No coastline.
That's
And
good.
It's famous for its pie, isn't it? Which I do think of when I look at you.
Yeah.
Now, in a little bit, we're going to be having Irene Estry on the show. What's your thoughts on health and well-being?
Very important to me. Is that what Irene does?
Yes.
I did wonder. I just met Irene very briefly, didn't I, in the kitchenette that's attached to these spatial studios. and she was very chatty, and I spent the whole thing going... But I see, yes, well-being and health is very important to me. In fact, I do a lot of mindfulness. Do you do mindfulness? No, do you do mindfulness?
Oh, no.
No. Now, I remember your name, but people watching might not know. What was...
Mark.
Mark, you don't do mindfulness. No, mindfulness. Well, mindfulness, for those that don't know, which is Belinda and Mark, is a form of meditation where you put the focus on yourself. You put the onus on one. You put the subject avec J. En français. And I like to do something called projectile mindfulness. Oh. That's where you tell other people what's wrong with them.
Wow.
And yes, and you just go through life just improving people, conversation at a time. So I'm very into wellness and well-being. Irene will know what mindfulness is.
Yes.
I saw her in the kitchenette and I thought immediately, now there's someone that's no stranger to a colouring in book. That's what mindfulness is, resides there. The vegetation is moving with me. I hope I'm not disrupting the local ecology around here or something like that. No, it's lovely. Very tranquil. Is this wellness and mindfulness and well-being? Bit feng shui, isn't it?
Feng shui,
It's lovely. What plant is it? Could you name it?
Yes.
Yes, it's a blossom tree, isn't it?
Thank you.
Yes, it's a blossom
tree.
Oh, it's like being in China in April.
Isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not. It's Salford in November.
It's Salford in November. Now, listen, we've got to talk about your productiveness and your successfulness. Mm-hmm. How has this all come about for you? Has it been a long journey, a long incline?
I think it was a bit of an inevitable destiny, really.
Right.
I think I just got into the passenger seat and let the cosmos take me through this tremendous success.
Right.
And it's a curse, really, because some people work and they get nowhere, do they, Belinda? But I try very little, and it just falls in my lap.
Because you were on that Britain's Got Talent programme, moving on. You were on that Britain's Got Talent programme, weren't you? Thank you.
I was on Britain's Got Talent,
Yes.
yes. I tried to save the franchise.
That was the year where there was no audience, though.
Yeah, for half of it.
Yes.
For half of it. Can you imagine trying to do a job with nothing in the room except for a couple of disinterested cameramen?
Yes.
Yes, it was tough. It was tough. But I did the first bit I did at the London Palladium, which is a lovely theatre. And do you know, Bruce Forsyth is interred there.
He is.
His ashes are under... You didn't know, did you?
No.
I'm not having you on either.
They
Look
are.
this up after the show. Bruce Forsyth is interred under the stage.
Yes.
So to think that Bruce Forsyth's bones have vibrated to my singing, that's quite moving.
He is.
It is.
He's with Billy Marsh.
I like to think that that was his final tap dance. I've been going up and down. I've moved to Manchester in that time. I should mention that. Your viewers will like that, won't they?
Yes, they will.
There's no city more pleased with itself than Manchester. I moved here. You're welcome. I moved here 2 years ago and I'm loving it. So, and I've been doing a show once a month at the Cockatoo Club,
Yes.
which is in Canal Street.
It's a lovely place, isn't
It's
it?
a lovely place.
Yes.
It looks a lot like the Eagle some nights, but for licensing purposes, when I'm there, it's the Cockatoo Club.
Yes.
So I do there once a month, and then I do weekly at the Royal Vauxhall Tavern,
Now,
which is
that
in
must
London.
feel wonderful.
It
Because,
does.
I mean, that's where we all kind of want to be, but some of us won't and can't. Do you know what I mean? But you've got there.
I do know what you mean, but to save your feelings, I'll pretend I don't.
Right.
No, it's lovely. It's one of those spaces. Well, you know, I was just talking about Bruce Forsyth
Yes.
being under the floorboards at the London Palladium, and some places, and you'll get this, they seep history. Like history comes out, it oozes from them like mist. And the London Palladium is one such place. And the Royal Vauxhall Tavern is one such place. And even if you're just sitting in it when no one's in, you know, like maybe on a night when Lola Lasagna's on, if you're sitting in it when there's no one in, love you, Lola. If you're sitting in it when no one's in and you're looking at all the decor up at the top, you can see the original Corinthian columns and everything that they have. I'll pause for your viewers to Google that.
That's what I was just about to
It's a style, it's a design.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
So you look at, and they've got these Corinthian columns, and then there's footage of the Royal Vauxhall Tavern that the BFI have of shows that were happening there in the 60s. And even though the entire layout of the venue has changed, you can see these pillars still there. And I love that. And there's photographs of people on stage there in the 60s, and there's photographs of me there, like last month, in similar positions. And you really feel like you're in part of the transient nature of history.
A click.
A click.
A click.
Oh, a click, yes, a click. Yes, but I think it's always important to say, when you're observing this as well, that you are not the final destination of history.
No.
And that one day I'll be long gone and someone else will be performing in that venue and doing the same thing. So you feel like you're part of the sort of conveyor belt of existence, which I love, I thrive for.
Now we're joined by Jez Dolan.
Now, Jez is an artist based in Manchester whose work explores queerness and identity, particularly focusing on secrecy and hiddenness.
Jez uses research and archival source material to create new work that crosses multiple different types of media.
Jez joins us now to talk about his work and how the abolishment, I'm sticking with that word, whether you like it or
Abolition.
not, abolishment of Section 28, now 21 years ago, is impacting the future of his work.
Section 28 was a piece of legislation.
That means law.
It does indeed. Thank you. A piece of legislation that prohibited local authorities from promoting homosexuality in schools and in general.
Welcome to the show, Jez. How are
Thank you very much. I'm very well, thank you. It's lovely to be here.
You are quite the fascinating artiste.
Well, thank you. It's very kind.
aren't you? Where did it all begin for you?
Oh, whoa, goodness. Well, I started out working in theatre, really, but not traditional theatre, so outdoor theatre, site-specific theatre in, up mountains, up in hills, in lakes and that kind of stuff. And then I kind of, over the last... I've been working as a visual artist. I still work in theatre as a bit as a maker, as a performer, as a director, but I'm predominantly a visual artist, which I've been working in for about 14 years.
So what is a visual artiste then, please?
I make artwork that you can look at that sits on a wall or sits on a plinth or whatever, as opposed to something that is a performance. But I also make some performance works as well. So it's visual art is a really big term.
Right.
So you'll do anything, really?
Pretty much.
Yeah, thank you. I thought we'd get there.
Like many of you.
So what are you working on at the moment? Tell us about that.
So the big project that we've just been launching this week is called Protest. So I'm artistic director of a small arts and heritage company based in Manchester called IAP MCR, and we work across arts and heritage in its widest sense, but it's looking at queer stories and working with queer people and queer artists. And the kind of phrase that we work with is talking about something makes it last longer. So this week is the 21st anniversary of the abolition of Clause 28. So we're launching a project called Protest, which is a really multi-layered project which will run over the next 2 years, thereabouts, which takes as its starting point the Clause 28 march in Manchester in 1988.
So what was Section 28 then?
Section 28 was Section 20. It came under several names. So Clause 28, Section 28. I think also 27 and 29 at some point. But Clause 28, people know it as. So it was commissioned or brought in by the Conservative government under Margaret Thatcher in 1988. And the idea was it was prohibiting any local authority to promote homosexuality as a pretended family lifestyle or an alternative family lifestyle. So the big impact of that it prevented any school from actually discussing homosexuality with its pupils or by its staff.
Which was strange, I have to say, for people of a certain generation, me included, to start figuring yourself out and then kind of not be able to be out.
Yeah. I mean, it had such a massive impact. I mean, it lasted till in England, it lasted till 2003, which is 21 years ago. And it was an extraordinary right-wing piece of legislation that was targeted towards LGBT plus people in schools. And particularly, we've spoken to quite a lot of younger people, slightly younger than me, possibly, who were at school at the time, who were hugely impacted by this. So if you were being bullied because of your queerness in a school, and you went to your teacher, and your teacher was going, "Whoa, no, sorry, I'm not allowed, can't talk about that," and it was just taken away. So nobody was allowed to discuss it. No. And also it was interesting, nobody was ever, a local authority, a school in England, was never prosecuted under this law. So it was kind of a pointless thing anyway, but it really did prevent people from talking about it, and particularly younger people from accessing information that you might be able to in school.
And of course, we're now 21 years later. What has changed? What has improved? What's been the benefit of getting rid of that?
Well, I think, we all recognise, I'm sure, that the strides in which LGBT people have become more equal, not necessarily fully equal, but in terms of equal marriage, adoption, pension rights, health rights, education, all of those things that we now hopefully in many places we hold as really important and really significant. But as Myra says, how are we going to see those again being whittled away? I think also it's really important if you look at trans rights at the moment, and that will certainly be a significant part of the project, because we certainly see the fight that trans people are going through now as very similar to the fight that lesbian and gay people were going through 30, 40 years ago. And it's just kind of being replicated that you're evil, you're a pervert, you're a paedophile, you're a menace to society, whatever else. We've kind of heard this stuff before. And I think, as you say, we should be looking forward. But also, if we don't look back at what happened and how it happened, then we're not in a place to be able to fight it.
So what you're working on at the moment then, how are we going to see this? What's it aiming towards?
So initially, the first stage of the project is oral histories. So basically we'll train people in oral history technique. Oral history is now considered a really significant way of historically documenting things. Not just like, here's the book written by the people who won or survived. This is the testament, the actual testament of the people who lived through all of this. So what we're going to do is train people in how to undertake these oral history interviews and these techniques, because there's specific ways of doing it and not doing it. And what we're looking for is people who were involved in specifically the Clause 28 March in 1988 as a starting point, whether they were there, whether they were organising it, whether they were standing with a placard, whether in the audience or, you know, standing on the street going, what is this? Or any of those people, whether you were at school, whether you were a teacher, whether you were a kid who was getting bullied, whether you were somebody sitting on the sidelines watching this with horror, or whether you're a younger trans person now looking at this going, what on earth, you know, so that we can get those oral history testimonies from people. They'll be archived at Archives Plus at Central Library in Manchester, so that anybody can access them. Any researchers, historians, whoever else, hobbyists, whoever wants to use them. But small clips of them will be available on the Archives Plus website. We've in previous projects documented about 50 hours of oral history. So going back to, our last project, we were talking to people who are now in their 70s and older, who went through conversion therapy in hospital because of their sexuality, who were arrested for indecency, who were, you know, all of those things. And, you know, the thing that I think we need to bear in mind or rethink about is it's all not that unrecent, you know. It's certainly within my living memory, you know, yes, people that we're talking about who went through this dreadful stuff and, you know, have kind of suffered through the rest of our lives. So these oral histories are really important, and that we can then share them with other people, and with some of them, anybody in the world can access them, but they will be kept forever, both in Manchester and Trafford.
And when are they going to be available by?
Well, it takes quite a long time, as you imagine, but the training starts in the end of February, and then we basically will match people to go, and what we're quite interested in is making that an intergenerational process, so getting younger people to go and talk to older people or vice versa, and learning from each other's experience. And that will be an ongoing process for a year, probably. Then we have a series of partners, the main one being Manchester Art Gallery. So in February 2026, we'll be doing an exhibition at Manchester Art Gallery, which will be looking at their collections, plus some new artist commissions, some loans from other institutions, a whole collection of stuff that will be on display for potentially 6 months. We'll have then a whole programme of engagement, participation, music, spoken word, performance, whatever else, that also goes along with that exhibition. We'll also be it's quite a big project, we'll also be making a film which will be using as its starting point all those oral history testimonies. We don't know what that film is yet.
No.
We don't know, because we haven't got the research.
Exciting, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what makes it exciting. Yeah. So it's a big project that runs over a long period of time, and hopefully will have an impact beyond, you know, the starting point.
Fantastic. Sounds marvellous, doesn't it? We should be following that up, I am sure.
Thank you very much, Jez.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, moving on to some theatre now. Let's time travel back to the Victorian times. Hello everybody. Well, you join us here at Larkhill Place, Salford Museum, the beautiful Victorian street that they've got here. We're here for the launch of A Christmas Carol, a wonderful collaboration with Hope Mill Theatre and the Lowry, and starring Claire Moore. A Christmas Carol, we're very excited. It's got wonderful music in it, it's going to be fantastic. Oh, and there's the lady now, Claire Moore. Well, let's walk.
Shall we?
Taking this street.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
You're doing A Christmas Carol.
I am.
And you're playing the wonderful Scrooge.
Yeah, Evelina.
Evelina, that's
which
what
is a proper
to.
Victorian name. She was
Right.
an actual person, yeah.
So have you changed much of the character then?
The story's the same,
Yeah.
you know, and we've not been able to change anything in the script. So in terms of anybody who knows the Charles Dickens Christmas Carol, we're telling that story. But I think Joe and Will from Hope Mill just thought how interesting it might be from a woman's perspective, you know, a spinster, a childless woman, that relationship with the Cratchits, with the nephew Fred and his family after losing her mum, her dad going to prison and all of that. And they found out there's quite a lot of documented evidence of women, business women and entrepreneurs at that time.
That is making more sense than the actual original.
It's amazing, isn't it? You know,
because it was never really explained why he was so grumpy in it, but now you're putting that story to it as
well,
actually
yeah,
makes
and you
more
kind of
sense.
shut down emotionally.
Yeah.
Well, you know, as a woman yourself, you know, it's very easy with, you know, if you're not treated properly, that emotionally you shut down. And I think that is what has happened.
So you've done this before, haven't you? But you played Mrs. Fezziwig.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, that was in the film. That was sensational.
Yeah,
that
it was
amazing.
really, really fun. You know, we were in the middle of Budapest in August, in fake snow, basically having the best time. And now I'm here doing this, having the best time. You know, it's not work, is it?
Now, you've worked for so many different things. I mean, I go back with you. I know your career inside out, I think, near enough. I mean, you go back and you put yourself down as the alternate Christine Daae, but I mean, to me, you were my favourite Christine Daae.
Oh, bless you.
And that's
Thank
not
you.
even giving you a good compliment, because that's just how I feel. I mean, your voice was, you managed to get the strength in there where, let's just say, the other one kind of was a bit.
Well, do you know what? But for the other one, as you say, there would be no Phantom of the Opera, so I would never have had the chance to play the role. So thank you.
So
to
what
them.
was your involvement within that then? Was you kind of there as it was being built, as it was being developed? Or were
Yeah, well, I was. It had been written, but I was there early on, and I didn't really know what an alternate was. I didn't really know what anything was, to be honest. I was so new to the business, and I auditioned for Cameron and Hal Prince and Andrew Lloyd Webber, and I think I sang O mio babino caro, which is a Puccini, because I knew that Andrew loved it. And I'd trained at the Royal Northern, actually. I was an opera singer at the Royal Northern, and so it was nice to go back to my roots. And then this kind of alternate thing was talked about, which meant that you do a couple of shows a week. But I was on before I'd even had a rehearsal.
Wow.
And
what was the reason for that then?
we opened on the Tuesday, and on the Saturday matinee, I got a phone call saying Sarah wasn't well, and I was going to be rehearsing on both shows on the Saturday and on the Monday. So I rehearsed on the matinee and I went on the Saturday night. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. It was extraordinary. And the only person who could come was my agent then, because I just said, I need you to be here because I just don't know what I'm doing. And if it all goes horribly wrong, at least you'll be able to explain why. And then I was supposed to go on the Monday, and Sarah came back, actually. And so Cameron sent me and my mum and dad off for dinner instead.
wow.
It was lovely. I was well looked after. And from then on, I ended up doing the 2 shows a week. And Hal Prince was amazing. You know, these legendary people, Belinda, that are no longer with us, that I had the opportunity to work with.
And what was it like working with Mr. Crawford?
He was brilliant. And in fact, that night, as we came on to take our bows, he insisted on taking his bow before me and made me take the final bow.
Wow.
So that was a real act of generosity. That kind of thing doesn't happen, and I'll just never forget it. And it was just, it was incredible.
And then, of course, Miss Saigon. I mean, you've it's not like you've done the musicals that are not very well known, is it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm ancient. That's the first thing. I started off being the youngest person in the company, and now I'm the oldest by quite some margin. And of course, you know, the 80s and 90s was a real renaissance of the British musical, I think. So
Proper
talk
musicals.
about being around at the right time.
Yeah.
And Miss Saigon was just extraordinary. And going from Phantom to playing Ellen, again, a really different vocal style, suddenly being able to sort of belt it out a bit more. And and Leia Salonga, who sounds exactly the same now as she did when she was 18.
Well, you're not doing so bad yourself, though.
Well,
we have been
you've
watching
not-
a little bit of you. You know, you're still able to.
Wait
pipe
till
it
you hear
out,
me
aren't
sing
you?
this. Christine, this is not.
So, what is this a different style of music to what we can? I mean, this is Alan Menken,
Yeah,
isn't
it is, and it's exactly what you would expect.
Yeah.
You know, if you think along the beautiful classic shows that they've done, you know, he and Howard writing, you know, Beauty and the Beast and all that, all of those kind of big sweeping melodies and beautiful things with a pared down band, which will be lovely. I think that Jason Carr's doing the orchestrations for a small band, which I think will make it feel a bit more sort of authentic as
just
well.
to stop you there, we hear this every time when it comes to a Hope Mill production. They always say it's a smaller band. It never sounds like a smaller band.
No, well, that's because it's a clever orchestrator
Yeah.
who makes it sound like there's millions of people.
Yeah. And what do you think people should take away from watching this musical, or indeed engross themselves within this theme of the musical?
I think the message is kindness. You know, it's a Christmas tale, yeah, and it's set at Christmas and it's all gorgeous and Christmassy and lovely and festive. But, you know, we can be kind. We need to be kinder every single day. And I think that is the message that we should all take with us. You know, social media, I think, has created some not very nice people out there. And we should just all be saying nice things to each other and saying thank you. And because we all feel better, don't you feel better if you're nice to somebody? You know, if you say, look at you, you look gorgeous today, which you do. I feel better because it's just so easy, isn't it?
It's going to be fantastic. We are looking forward to this one. It's definitely one to watch, everybody.
I can't wait.
It's going to be exciting. Make sure you get your tickets for this one, everybody.
And A Christmas Carol the musical is running from the 6th of December to the 5th of January next year, and it's not to be missed. Now, finally today, last but by no means least, we're joined by Irene Estry.
Is of you to say.
Thank you.
Irene is here to talk all about the key to keeping fit. So I feel a fraud. And she's going to tell us how to keep healthy as well at any age.
Indeed, I want whatever information Irene has because she looks incredible. It's great to have you on the show. Welcome.
And it's great to be here. It's good
This-
to go here.
See you, yeah.
This is a story that is absolutely fascinating because your whole life has just been dedicated to well-being, healthy, but not just healthy in the look, healthy in the mind. It's something that you pride yourself on, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't actually start till I was 40, you know. And at 40, I discovered a method.
Right.
Trained in it and brought the method back to Manchester. I was actually the first teacher.
Were you? But you started really with Pat Phoenix,
Yeah.
didn't you? And tell us a bit about Pat.
Yeah, oh, well, when I brought the method back to Manchester, it was a very well-known method in London, but nobody had heard of it here. And this was like embryonic. There was nobody done fitness. Can you imagine a place without a gym, a spa? It's like
Well, I
that.
can
Yes,
actually.
it's called Yes.
It's a multi-million-dollar business now. So
Yes.
it's,
Well, I know.
So I started to teach in the first health club here. You might remember it was called Drummond's. It was on next to a car show.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
He invited all of Coronation Street on the
Yes.
opening day because they were literally down the road from where he was. And that's where I met them all. And I met Pat and, well, all of them. And I was the only person teaching there. So if they wanted a class, they hadn't developed a gym there. There was no gyms. So they all piled into my class. I had a lot of them in there. But Pat had a particularly bad back. So I took Pat into the pool. And I did the same exercises in the pool because you're 80% weightless and 90% buoyant. So
We should do this show in a
Yes.
pool.
honestly, it was incredible how quickly we rehabilitated her.
Yes.
So you mentioned the word method. What is the method?
The method it's now known as Pilates.
Oh, I've started Pilates
Have you?
recently. Yes, I'm about 6 weeks into it. It's marvellous.
How are you finding it?
I'm loving it. Do you know what I'm enjoying about it? Maybe you'll find. Can I give a little?
Is this serious?
Yeah. Can
All
I give a
right.
little shout out to my instructor,
Yes, please do.
Evan Garrett Fitness?
Evan Garrett Fitness.
Yeah,
Hi.
and no, he specialises in LGBT clients, and he has a programme of things for
it
trans
one-to-one?
clients. It is one-to-one as well, yeah.
that's cool.
But he does classes. Anyway, no, what I enjoyed about it was that it's very mindful. We were talking about mindfulness,
Yes.
and you're aware of your body. And I've tried to do fitness before, where you've got someone shouting at you to
Yes.
push yourself. And what I like about Pilates is you go slowly, you listen to your body, and it's about making the movement rather than hurting yourself in any way.
Absolutely. But the thing was, it's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Because it was originally known as the Lottie Burt method.
Right.
Now, Lottie was a famous ballerina. She's passed now, but I have a lot to thank her for. And in the prime of her being a top ballerina, she was severely injured in a car accident. So she was taken into hospital and she was rehabilitated by a young gentleman who was affiliated to the New York State Ballet called Jose Pilates.
Oh, I see.
Comes from someone. I didn't know that.
So Jose rehabilitated Lottie. They were the same age. They're both gone now. And when she could actually move again. So it was the very fine movements that you're talking about. So here she is, hardly able to move. So they start the peripheries, the fingers, anything that would move. They got her moving.
You
And-
show us one of them exercises quickly.
Are you
want
going
to-
to backflip across the studio?
Well,
No.
I've
No.
had an only wanted me to do that at a comes
Do some
to-
facial exercise.
Let's do a facial exercise.
We'll all do them too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when, now don't shout at once with this. Which bit of yourself on the face don't you like?
My 12 chins.
Right,
No, I don't like your 12 chins either.
Thank you.
right, okay.
Madge
so
Bishop, Harold Bishop.
shall we do? Now you've got to be gentle. Don't be strangling
Yes.
yourself. So you just gently press down here.
Oh, yes.
You're going a bit too much.
Oh, am I doing too much?
Yeah, just gently.
Got a lot to work
Very easy with your chin, isn't it, darling?
Now what you've got to do, you've got to do this in panto. Get the audience doing it. Take your bottom lip.
I'm sure.
I can see all the kids sitting
I'm
here
gonna
strangling
cancel
the
my
parents.
Right.
If I start laughing, I won't stop. Right, and you've got to pull your bottom. You're doing it.
Well,
I do that naturally.
all right now.
Shall we do tram lines?
Yeah,
Because
well,
that really
okay.
will get the audience going.
Yes,
These
please.
are the tram lines. We don't like the tram lines, Lonnie, do we? Right, here. So, I am going to do this like a little rabbit.
Oh.
I don't think I can do it.
Oh. It's like a pelvic floor exercise for your face, isn't it?
You're very good at it, Myra. You're a natural
Actually,
love.
you're good at it.
She's very good. You found a whole new routine.
You're giving me the rabbit in bed stopper and broomsticks. That's what you're giving me. Yes.
You know you do enough of those the following day you saw that.
We are being told we are out of time, but fabulous.
Oh, is that what that means?
Yes, it says shh now. So it looks fantastic. We've had a fantastic show. Thank you so much, Irene Estry.
Thank
so
you.
welcome.
Jez
Thank
Dolan
you,
as well.
Irene.
And
I'm saying thank you like it's my show. Thank you. But it's been nice. Thank you for having me. I've
well,
loved being
listen,
here.
there you go,
Lovely to have
Panto
you.
at the Opera
Panto.
House. When's it on?
Oh God, we start rehearsals on the 2nd of December. There's me, Jason Manford and Ben Nicholas, and we are on and we open on the 15th of December and we close on the 5th of January.
This is your
we all
second
going?
time doing this.
My second time doing it. I was
Yes.
Jack and the Beanstalk last year. This year it's Cinderella.
Is it all
coming
new
to see you.
material?
Oh no.
At least that's very honest. To each and everybody, make sure you're checking out our podcast as well this week. It's
Yes.
going to be exciting.
Oh, it's fabulous. I always love the podcast.
It's going to be well edited.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Right.
Yes. Also check out our website to each and every one of our guests. So thanks for watching this week's episode of
Your Manchester!